The squeak of sneakers on the polished court, the roar of the crowd, the rhythmic thud of a basketball. These were the sounds of my afternoons. I wasn't there for the game itself. My eyes, wide in earnest, were always fixed on one player, J1, the star senior forward. I knew this quiet, blossoming affection was foolish, but I couldn't help the butterflies that stirred whenever he scored or just ran past. J1 was a magnet for attention. After every game, a swarm of students would gather, eager to hand him water bottles. But I noticed something. Amidst the sea of hands, his gaze would subtly flick towards me. With a practiced casualness, he'd reach for the simple plastic bottle I always held out. It was a small gesture, almost imperceptible, but for me, it sent a jolt of hope through my shy heart. It felt like our little secret. This unspoken ritual continued for weeks, each chosen water bottle fueling my quiet yearning. One particularly electric afternoon, after a nail-biting victory, a surge of courage came over me. Pushing past the usual crowd, I blurted out, "J1 Hyung, would you like to go out sometime?" He paused, his expression unreadable. The crowd seemed to fade as I waited, my heart pounding. Then, a small smile touched his lips. "Minjun," he said, his voice softer than I expected. "I appreciate that. But I think I'd be a better tutor for you in physics. You've been struggling, right?" My hopeful bubble burst. A tutor? It wasn't what I wanted, but the disappointment was quickly overshadowed by the faint blush on his cheeks and the genuine concern in his eyes. Maybe this was a start, a different kind of closeness. I nodded, managing a small, "Yes, Hyung." And so began our tutoring sessions. In the quiet of the library, amidst textbooks and whispered explanations, we spent hours together. J1 was patient, surprisingly attentive, and sometimes, his hand would brush mine as he pointed to an equation, sending those familiar butterflies fluttering. My crush transformed into something more profound and aching. I knew he was avoiding the romantic implications, maybe out of fear or a worry of breaking my heart. One evening, after a particularly long session, the library was almost empty. Emboldened by the intimacy of the moment, I leaned in. My eyes closed, my lips tentatively reaching for his. But instead of a kiss, there was a sudden push. His hand was on my shoulder, firm but not harsh. I opened my eyes to see a flash of panic, perhaps even fear, in his gaze. "Minjun, no," he whispered, his voice tight. Humiliation burned through me. I pulled back, my cheeks flaming, unable to meet his gaze. The silence was deafening. Just as I was about to stammer an apology and flee, the library door creaked open. Standing there, a small smirk playing on his lips, was Hyunwoo, another senior. He'd been frequenting the library more often, always seeming to find a seat near me and offering a teasing remark. He'd been subtly making his interest known, much to my shy discomfort. Hyunwoo's gaze swept from my mortified face to the flustered J1, a knowing glint in his eyes. "Everything all right here?" he asked, his voice deceptively innocent. It was in that moment, seeing Hyunwoo's predatory interest, that something shifted in J1. The fear in his eyes was replaced by a sudden, fierce protectiveness. He looked at me, then at Hyunwoo, and a realization seemed to dawn on him. He didn't want to lose me. Not to Hyunwoo, not to anyone. Taking a deep breath, he turned back to me, his hand reaching out, this time not to push away, but to gently cup my cheek. "Minjun," he said, his voice steady. "I'm sorry. I was scared." Then he looked directly at Hyunwoo. "Minjun is with me." Turning back to me, a genuine smile now graced his lips. "Let's go on that date." My heart soared. The humiliation of moments before was replaced by a dizzying euphoria. I couldn't believe it. He was finally choosing me. As we walked out of the library, leaving a surprised Hyunwoo in our wake, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced before. This was the beginning of something real. Our first date felt like a dream. We went to a small, quiet cafe. J1 was everything I'd dreamed of. He was attentive and kind, and he held my hand under the table, his thumb tracing slow circles on my skin. He talked about his dreams, his fears, and his life, things he had never shared with me. In that cafe, he wasn't the star athlete. He was just J1, and he was all mine. But our little bubble of bliss was fragile. It shattered a few days later when we were at the school's convenience store. I had just picked up a carton of strawberry milk when a couple of J1's teammates walked in. My heart leaped. I wondered what they would think, seeing us together. Then J1 smiled at them, a confident, easy grin. "Hey guys," he said. His hand, which had been resting casually on my shoulder, subtly pulled away. "This is Minjun, my little brother." The word hit me like a splash of cold water. Little brother. He said it so easily, so casually. His teammates nodded, barely sparing me a glance. One of them, with a smile on his face, touched my shoulders. I just stood there, the strawberry milk carton feeling impossibly heavy in my hand. Later that night, when he walked me home, I had to ask, "Why did you call me your brother?" My voice was small, but the hurt was immense. J1 pulled me into an alley. He held my hands, his gaze searching mine. "Minjun, I'm so sorry. It's just so new, and everyone knows me as the captain. It would be a lot to explain." He held my face, his thumbs gently wiping away the tears that were falling. "I'm not ashamed of you. Never. I'm just scared. Scared of what it would do to my team, to my reputation. Please, just for now, can we be a secret?" He sealed his words with a kiss so full of apology and desperate love that I melted into it. In that moment, surrounded by shadows, he was mine again. A new rhythm took over our lives. In the halls, I was J1's little brother. He'd offer me a nod from across the cafeteria, and we would never walk together unless it was by coincidence. My heart would ache every time he used that word. But in the evenings, we were different people. We'd sneak out to quiet parks or empty movie theaters. He would hold me close, kiss me, and whisper how much he cared for me. He would apologize again and again for the public charade. I wanted to believe him. The secret kisses and hushed phone calls were all mine, a precious secret no one else could touch. But with every little brother, he said, a part of me shrank, a voice asking if I could really be happy in the shadows forever. 2 years slipped by. The awkwardness of our little brother phase was a distant memory. J1 was a university graduate, running his own burgeoning company, and I was in college. We had a comfortable rhythm. He would always come to pick me up from my classes. He was my ride home, my best friend, and the person I loved more than anyone. We had even taken the terrifying step of coming clean to our parents. Their initial shock melted into support. The relief of living our lives without a secret was a weight lifted from both our shoulders. Our love was out in the open, at least to the people who mattered most. One afternoon, I was walking out of class with Choi, a guy from my automotive design course. We were deep in a discussion, laughing and debating. Then I saw him. J1's car was parked just ahead, but he was leaning against the hood, a dark look on his face I hadn't seen in years. The air around him felt heavy and cold. He watched us as we approached, his eyes fixed on Choi's hand movements, and on my smile. The familiar pang of his old jealousy hit me. As we got closer, J1 pushed himself off the car and walked directly towards us, his jaw tight. "Minjun," he said, his voice clipped. It wasn't a question. It was a command. The friendly conversation died on my lips. "Hey, Hyung," I said, trying to diffuse the tension. "This is Choi from my class." J1 didn't even acknowledge him. He looked from Choi to me, his gaze full of a possessive intensity. He was acting just like he did in the library. "Minjun, get in the car," he said, his eyes never leaving mine. I stammered an apology to Choi, my heart pounding, and hurried to J1's car. He didn't speak a word as he drove. I could feel his anger. He drove us to his apartment, and when he stopped, he pulled out a small velvet box from his glove compartment. He looked at me, his eyes full of a vulnerability I rarely saw. "I can't do this anymore, Minjun," he said, his voice shaky. "I can't see you with other guys. I can't live with this feeling." He opened the box to reveal a beautiful silver ring. "You are my home. I want you to be with me, officially. Always." He took my hand. "Will you move in with me?" I stared at the ring. The jealousy had been terrible, but this was his desperate, beautiful solution. It was his way of telling the world that I was his. It was a proposal, a promise, and a final goodbye to being a secret. I knew my answer instantly. A year later and everything changed. The apartment was too big, too empty, and too quiet. It was the same apartment J1 had asked me to make our home. But it didn't feel like home. It felt like a stage, and I was just a ghost in his life. He was still in his suit, going over blueprints, his face illuminated by the glow of his tablet. He hadn't noticed me for 10 minutes. "J1, I said, my voice barely a whisper. He didn't look up. "Just a second, Minjun. This is a big deal." My heart, which had been hurting for months, finally hardened. "We're done," I said. This time, he looked up, his brows furrowed in annoyance. But the words must have registered, because his eyes widened, and he slowly put down the tablet. "What are you talking about?" He truly didn't understand. The neglect had started subtly, a slow fade into the background of his life. He was always at the office, always working late. He barely ate the meals I prepared. My desk was in the corner, a quiet, forgotten figure in the very company he had promised we would build together. My work was an afterthought. His attention had been poured into someone else, his childhood friend, his first love, who had returned from the States. He was a constant presence, visiting the office, laughing with J1, and eating the lunch I had prepared for J1, claiming he was too busy. J1 would take him out to fancy restaurants and laugh in a way he hadn't laughed with me in years. He was a priority, while I was an afterthought. The humiliation was a constant, stinging wound. A careless mistake was met with a harsh, public rebuke. I felt myself shrinking back into the shy, insecure boy I used to be. The final straw came a week ago. I was in the office, and J1's friend was there, as usual. We were alone, and I tried to make conversation. He just looked at me with a condescending smirk. When J1 walked back in, his friend's expression changed instantly. He clutched his arm, his face contorted in a pained expression. "J1, he pushed me," he cried, his voice dripping with false distress. J1 didn't even look at me. He just looked at his friend's feigned pain, and his face hardened. Without a word, his hand rose and connected with my cheek. The sound echoed in the silent office, a gunshot in a graveyard. The sting was immense, but the shock was even greater. He had slapped me for a lie. That night, he came home with flowers and a tearful apology. He said he was stressed. He held me and begged for my forgiveness. I didn't, but I was still in love with the boy who had given me a ring. Something had changed. The promise was broken. "You gave me a ring," I said, now my voice cracking, "to tell me you couldn't stand the thought of me with anyone else. You gave me this house to promise me that I wouldn't be a secret again. But you're not here, J1. Not for me. You're just here with Aether Motors and with him." He was looking at me now, a blank, stunned expression on his face. "We're not partners anymore. We're just business. I'm your driver, your personal assistant, your everything but your boyfriend. You forgot your promises." I took off the ring he had given me. It felt cold and heavy in my hand. I set it on the coffee table beside his blueprints. "I'm tired of being your little brother," I said, the words echoing our past. "I'm tired of being your secret." He just stared at me, his eyes wide. He didn't say a word, didn't try to stop me. He thought I would be back. And I walked out, leaving him alone in the beautiful, empty home he had built for us. The cold night air hit me with a shock as I ran out of the apartment. I didn't know where I was going, my feet moving on their own as tears streamed down my face. My heart was a shattered mess. I couldn't go home to my parents. The only place that felt safe was somewhere new, somewhere a part of my new life. I found myself at Choi's apartment building. I didn't even knock. When he opened the door, I just pushed past him, stumbled inside, and collapsed, the sobs I had been holding back for months finally breaking free. Choi was startled, but he didn't ask questions. He brought me a glass of water and just sat beside me, his arm gently around my shoulders. Just as my sobs began to subside, headlights flashed through the window. A car drove into the parking lot. The door opened, and a guy stepped out. It was Choi's brother Jae-min. But just behind him, another figure emerged. My breath hitched. "Hyun!" I gasped. Hyun-woo looked up, his face breaking into a soft, gentle smile. He had grown even more handsome since I last saw him. I ran to him, throwing myself into his arms without a second thought. I buried my face in his chest, taking in his scent, a cool, minty fragrance that felt like a lifeline. He held me, his arm tightening around my back. "Minjun," he murmured. "I was just visiting my friend. What's wrong?" I couldn't explain. I just sobbed into his shoulder. When I finally pulled away, Hyun-woo looked at me with an expression of pure, unconditional concern. He didn't ask what happened. He just said, "Come stay with me." And I did. I knew this was the best place to be. Jae-won would never think to look for me at Hyun-woo's. My phone was dead. I learned later that Jae-won did call Choi. "Did you see Minjun?" Jae-won demanded, his voice frantic and panicked. But Choi, bless him, looked at me in the rearview mirror and said, "No, I haven't seen him since we left school." The lie was a shield, protecting me from a man who had hurt me, even though my heart still ached for him. Even as Hyun-woo gave me a safe place to land, my mind was still a whirlwind of memories. The world fell apart for Jae-won the moment I walked out that door. He had expected me back in an hour, a day at most. As the days turned into a week, his confidence shattered. He stormed into the Ether Motors office, his face a mask of furious desperation. He cornered his first love in a glass-walled conference room. "You!" Jae-won's voice was a low snarl. "What did you say to him? This is your fault. Don't tell me you lied, he pushed you." His first love just stared, stunned. "Jae-won, calm down. I didn't lie, he really did push me," he said, hoping to gather more pity from Jae-won, but he lost, because that ship had sailed. But Jae-won was already gone, racing to my parents' home. He poured his heart out to them, begging for their forgiveness. He moved into my old room, using my absence as a constant, crushing reminder of his failure. His desperation became a public spectacle. Billboards across the city that once advertised Ether Motors were now plastered with my face and a single, heartbreaking message. "Minjun, please come home. I am so sorry. Forgive me." He went to the police, his face pale and haggard, and filed a missing person report. That's when Hyun-woo came to me. He held up his phone, showing me a picture of my face on a billboard. I just stared at it, my heart aching. "He's going crazy, Minjun," Hyun-woo said gently. "I know he messed up. I know what he did was unforgivable. But he's not the same person anymore. He's destroying his life for you. He even went to the police. He's not playing games." I couldn't look away from the picture. Hyun-woo's words finally broke through the wall of hurt I had built around myself. It was the last, desperate act of a man who had lost everything. "Go to him," Hyun-woo said, his voice soft but firm. "It's time to face him." I met him at the empty library where our story had begun. He was standing in the very spot where he had pushed me away, his hands shaking. When he saw me, his face crumpled. He sank to his knees, not a CEO, not an athlete, just a man utterly broken. "Minjun," he choked out, the tears flowing freely. "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for being a coward. I'm sorry for calling you little brother when I should have called you mine. I'm sorry I hurt you, and I am sorry that I slapped you for a lie. Every day, every second, I have replayed that moment in my mind, and I hate myself for it. Please, please forgive me." He was on his knees, baring his soul. His words felt like a key, unlocking a part of my heart I had locked away. He looked up at me, his eyes red and pleading. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I have to ask you for it. I want to give you everything. My company, my life, my heart. I have an offer for you, Minjun. I want you to be the CEO of Ether Motors. It's not a bribe. It's a promise. A promise that you'll be my partner, not just in life, but in every single way. You're the one with the vision. I want to be your assistant, to work for you. And if you'll have me, I want to marry you. I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you that my promise is real. I looked at the man on his knees, not as a broken CEO, but as the boy who had once secretly watched him from across a basketball court. He was offering everything, but I didn't need a company or a title. I needed J1. I forgive you, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. I reached out, pulling J1 up into a tight, tearful embrace. I love you. I'll move back in with you. I'll be your partner. I held him for a moment longer before gently pulling back. But I won't be the CEO. J1's eyes widened. Why not? I smiled, a genuine, loving smile. Because you're the one who built it, and you're the one who needs it. I'll be there to support you. You just need to promise me one thing, that you'll never forget what truly matters again. His relief was so profound, it seemed to physically deflate him. He pulled me back into his arms, holding me tighter than ever before. Never again, he promised. And he was true to his word. Our new life was a testament to his promise. J1 became utterly obsessed with me, but this time, in a way that was dedicated and devoted. My word was law. He would be in the middle of a heated board meeting, and if his phone chimed with a text from me, he would stand up, apologize, and leave. His employees and board members learned to accept that if I called, J1 would drop everything to answer. He gave me his undivided attention, making me the absolute center of his world. In the company, I was a silent partner. I had a share in the business and received my salary and bonuses on time, even without stepping foot in the office. I worked from home, a dedicated assistant to J1, reviewing reports and helping to steer the company from the comfort of our apartment. It was a role I cherished, knowing I was an equal in every way that mattered. But J1, having come so close to losing me, couldn't bear the thought of me being away. He gently, subtly, and over time, discouraged me from having much contact with my old friends. He was a constant presence, a shadow and a shield, fearing that if I were to be too independent, I might leave him again. Our love story reached its beautiful, public conclusion with a quiet, elegant wedding. With my bright hair and his dark hair, we stood side by side, finally and completely together. We were the center of each other's universe. The others found their own happy endings too. Hyunwoo, who had become a true friend, found a connection with Choi's brother, Jaemin. And Jaewon's first love, who had caused so much drama, found himself with a newfound affection for Choi, a more genuine and honest person. I spent my days cooking for Jaewon, his breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a labor of love for the man who was now my husband. Our home was always filled with the smell of home-cooked meals and the quiet hum of our lives. It was an ending of our own making, a perfect, quiet, and happy conclusion to a story that began with a shy boy and a secret.